Before this story begins, we need to be honest with you. This video will not be easy to watch. This is not entertainment. This is pain. This is truth. And this is reality for millions around the world. Racism doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides behind smiles. Behind polite words. Behind systems designed to silence. You will hear words that hurt. See moments that wound. And feel emotions that linger. This story isn't just about hate. It's about fear. It's about silence. It's about shame. And it's about survival. You may feel uncomfortable. You may want to look away. You may even want to turn this off. But we ask you, stay. Watch. Listen. Not for us. But for those who never had the cha. It started in second grade. I was just 7 years old, a quiet, curious kid who loved drawing dinosaurs and telling stories about space. I didn't even know what racism was. But I felt it, before I understood it. Cut to slow motion of kids running together. One child stands alone. They said my lunch smelled weird. That my skin looked dirty. That I was different. Like different meant wrong. Camera focuses on empty cafeteria seat beside the child. At first, I thought it was just kids being mean. But the teachers didn't say anything. They looked and turned away. Even when I cried. Even when I stopped talking altogether. Footage, the child looking out the window. I tried to change, to laugh at their jokes about me, to stop speaking my language at home, to fit in. But no matter what I did, I was still too much for some and not enough for others. Cut to footage of drawings torn apart, a child's hands clenching a pencil. Racism doesn't always come with fists or slurs. Sometimes, it's silence. Isolation. Being treated like you don't exist. Music intensifies slightly. And when you grow up hearing that you're not enough. An option. Scene fades out slowly with emotional music. Systemic discrimination in education isn't always loud. It doesn't always scream racial slurs or slam doors shut. Sometimes, it shows up in quiet ways. In underfunded schools, over-policed hallways, and teachers who expect failure from certain students the moment they walk in. In neighborhoods where poverty overlaps with race, schools often suffer from chronic neglect. Old textbooks, crumbling buildings, outdated technology. While wealthier, whiter districts thrive just miles away. This isn't a coincidence. It's the legacy of segregation, redlining, and policies that continue to punish communities of color. Students of color are suspended more frequently, face harsher punishments, and are less likely to be placed in gifted programs. Even when their performance matches their peers. Teachers, consciously or not, often bring their biases into the classroom. They call on some students more than others. They discipline black and brown children for being disruptive when they're simply being expressive. There comes a moment when silence feels heavier than fear. When you realize that staying quiet is no longer an option. That moment, when you stand up and speak out, is where real change begins. For too long, racism thrived in silence. It hid in the background, protected by ignorance, fear, and denial. But when someone speaks, truth cuts through the noise. It starts with one voice. Shaky. Nervous. But honest. Then another joins. And then dozens. Hundreds. Until a single voice becomes a movement. Speaking out doesn't always look like shouting in the streets. Sometimes, it's a conversation with a friend. A refusal to laugh at a racist joke. A story shared online. A moment of truth in a classroom, a workplace, or a family dinner. Standing up means choosing courage over comfort. It means risking something, but gaining your dignity in return. People will try to silence you. Call you dramatic. Angry. But speaking out is not about making them comfortable. Because no one wins alone. And the fight against racism is not just personal. It's collective. One voice can be dismissed. 100 voices can't be ignored. That's the truth history has shown us again and again. When people come together, walls fall, systems break, and justice begins. So if you've ever felt alone in the fight, look around. There's a community rising with you. Louder than hate. Stronger than fear. And together, we will change everything. It's about making truth impossible to ignore. Because silence is what allows injustice to grow. But your voice? Your voice can shake foundations. Every movement that ever mattered started with someone who refused to stay silent. You don't need a stage. You don't need permission. You just need to believe that your story matters. And it does. So speak. Stand. Disrupt. Educate. Challenge. Change. Because racism doesn't fear laws or policies. It fears people who dare to speak truth to power. And the moment you speak out, you become part of something bigger. You become a force that cannot be silenced. To the next generation, we speak to you not with anger, but with truth. Because you deserve better than the world we were handed. You deserve classrooms where every story is told. Neighborhoods that are safe no matter your name, skin, or accent. And systems that lift you up, instead of breaking you down. Racism isn't just a shadow in our past, it still walks among us. It hides in policies, in silence, in unchecked privilege. But so does resistance. So does courage. So does hope. You will be told to stay quiet. To not make things about race. To be grateful, to fit in, to let it go. Don't. Speak loudly. Ask hard questions. Refuse to accept injustice even when it's wrapped in politeness. You have the power to unlearn what we were taught to accept. You have the strength to build what we were too afraid to imagine. Let your generation be the one that stops apologizing for existing. That celebrates difference. That replaces silence with action, ignorance with understanding, hate with humanity. We don't just hope for your future, we believe in it. Because we've seen what happens when people rise together. So carry our stories. But rewrite the ending. We fought so you could fly. Now go farther than we ever could. And never stop until freedom isn't just a word we say, but a life we all live. Question the systems we've accepted for too long. Challenge your own biases, even the quiet ones. Because staying neutral in the face of racism is not neutrality, it's permission. So here's your call to action. Be louder than hate. Be bolder than fear. Be part of the generation that ended silence. The future will ask what we did in this moment. Let your answer be: I stood up. I spoke out. I didn't look away. Because racism ends when enough of us say, not anymore.